How the 1989 Ford Ranger became America's small truck workhorse, and why its ending surprised everyone. Well, in 1989, Ford Ranger came from a simple purpose: a small truck, built to work, built to last. In the late 80s, you saw it everywhere, on farms, in small towns, outside hardware stores, and in the hands of people who just needed a truck that didn't complain. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it showed up every day, and that's why people trusted it. The 1989 model especially stood out, not for power, not for style, but for the simple fact that it just worked, day after day, year after year. Ford didn't redesign it from scratch that year. They refined it, tightened things, improved the interior, smoothed out the ride, and strengthened what was already good. Its engines, the 2.3-liter four-cylinder and the 2.9-liter V6, were known for being honest workers. Not fast, but dependable. The kind of engines that made people say, "Yeah, this'll do the job." But here's the part people forget. Even though the Ranger was everywhere, its story didn't end the way anyone expected. It didn't fade because it was weak, or unreliable, or outdated. No. Its ending came from a place almost no one saw coming. Before we reach that part, you have to understand the world the Ranger stepped into. A world where small trucks meant something different, where size wasn't everything, where reliability mattered more than features, and where a truck like this could build an entire reputation just by showing up on cold mornings and starting without fuss. The 1989 Ranger didn't need attention. It didn't chase trends. It was built for people who wanted a real tool, something they could drive, fix, load up, and keep running. And that's exactly what it became. A small truck, a steady worker, a quiet favorite. But behind all that, behind all the years of loyalty, was a story that changed faster than the Ranger itself ever could. A shift in the industry, a shift in buyers, a shift in priorities. And that shift, the one no one expected, is the reason its ending surprised everyone. We'll get there, but first, let's go back. Let's see where the Ranger actually came from and why this little truck became such a big part of American life. America's truck market was changing at the end of the 1970s. Gas prices were up. Big V8 pickups were becoming expensive to run. Imports were gaining ground. Toyota, Nissan, Mazda, small trucks that were cheap to buy, easy to maintain, and simple to live with. For Ford, this was pressure. Their compact truck at the time was the Mazda-built Courier. It worked, but it didn't feel like a true Ford product. The identity wasn't theirs. Ford needed an American compact truck, a truck built at home, built for American roads, and built for people who wanted something reliable without paying full-size prices. That's where the Ranger project began. Ford kept the mindset simple. Make it durable. Make it honest. Don't overpromise. Just build a truck that people can depend on. The engineering team didn't chase fancy design. They focused on strength, cold starts, rough roads, payload, longevity. Those were the real goals behind the platform. When the first-generation Ranger launched in 1983, the market responded immediately. People understood what it was. Farmers, small business owners, young first-time buyers, they all found something they liked in it. It was affordable, easy to repair, good on fuel, and the size made sense. Not too small, not too big, balanced for everyday life. As the 1980s moved forward, Ford kept improving it. The suspension got better, the frame grew stronger, the interior slowly became more comfortable, and the engines matured into something people trusted. By 1989, the Ranger reached a settled stage. It didn't feel experimental anymore. It felt complete, like Ford had figured out exactly what this truck needed to be. The 2.3-liter four-cylinder was simple and long-lasting, easy to fix, easy to understand. The 2.9-liter V6 was known for real-world torque, not fast, but capable. The kind of engine that made owners say, "Yeah, this will handle what I need." Meanwhile, something interesting was happening in America. Urban buyers were starting to buy trucks too. A compact truck was easier to park, cheaper to run, and less intimidating in traffic. Ranger fit into this shift naturally. Its size felt practical, its design was friendly and familiar, and driving it didn't require any adjustment. It was simple point A to point B transportation, and that's what many people appreciated in that era. Price played a big role too. Full-size trucks were getting more expensive. Ranger became a serious alternative. Not the cheapest choice, but a strong value choice. It delivered more than it asked for. In small-town mechanic shops, the Ranger became a common sight. Every other bay had one open. The engine bay layout was simple. Bolts were accessible. Repairs were straightforward. Mechanics respected it because it didn't fight back. So by 1989, the Ranger wasn't just a compact truck. It was a steady part of American daily life. A tool people relied on. A small truck that offered the kind of comfort that comes from familiarity. That year gave the Ranger a level of maturity where everything felt settled. Sales were steady, owners were satisfied, and the truck had earned a reputation for being dependable without needing attention. But behind all this, a shift had already started. Bigger trucks were coming back. More comfort, more power, more features. And slowly, the compact truck world began changing around the Ranger. The 1989 Ranger was strong, reliable, and well-loved. But the market was drifting in another direction, and that direction would eventually shape the truck's future in a way no one expected. Now we move toward the moment where the Ranger's story truly changes, how one of America's favorite small trucks found itself in a market that wasn't small anymore. For many Americans, the 1989 Ford Ranger wasn't just a truck, it was their first real taste of independence. You saw it in driveways of small homes, in high school parking lots, on gravel roads outside farms, and it always looked like it belonged there. A lot of people learned to drive stick in a Ranger, clutch a little stiff, gear lever a little long, but it taught you patience. And when you finally got it right, you remembered that moment. Parents handed these trucks down to their kids, older brothers passed them on, uncles sold them cheap to nephews. It was a hand-me-down vehicle that carried real stories, not just miles. What made the '89 Ranger special wasn't speed or style. It was the feeling that, yeah, this thing will get me through my week. And most of the time, it did. Owners used it the way compact trucks are meant to be used, hauling lumber for home repairs, moving old furniture, carrying tools in the back without worrying about scratches or dents. You don't baby a Ranger. You live with it, you push it, you rely on it, and it responds by just working. Landscapers liked it because it was cheap to keep running. Electricians liked it because it fit anywhere. Farmers liked it because it didn't sink into muddy fields the way big trucks sometimes did. And a lot of young drivers liked it because it didn't feel intimidating. The size was right. The steering was simple. The truck never made you feel small. There was a real honesty to this pickup. It didn't pretend to be tough. It didn't try to look aggressive. It didn't brag. It did its job with a quiet kind of confidence. People kept their Rangers for decades simply because they didn't give them a reason to switch. Maintenance was cheap, parts were everywhere. Most problems could be fixed with basic tools and a little patience. The interiors weren't fancy. Vinyl seats, simple gauges, a radio that worked, most days. But nothing broke easily. Everything felt like it was meant for daily life, not for impressing anyone. The 1989 Ranger also had a personality, not flashy, not loud, but steady. It felt like a truck that respected your budget and your time. Weekend drivers used it for camping trips. Throw a cooler in the back, tie down some bags, head out toward quiet places. No plans, no stress, just a truck and a road. College students bought used Rangers because they were cheap, durable, and could survive mistakes. Hard braking, rough shifts, overloading the bed. The truck forgave all of it. Some people remember the Ranger not because of its capability, but because it represented a stage of life, a first job, a small apartment, a move to a new town. Moments when money was tight but responsibilities were real. There's a reason so many old photos show a Ranger parked next to a garage or in a dusty backyard. It wasn't a show truck. It was a partner, the kind that stayed with you even when you outgrew it. And when people talk about the '89 Ranger today, their stories sound peaceful, not dramatic, not wild, just full of quiet appreciation. Good truck. Never left me stranded. That thing took care of me. It's strange how a small truck could leave such a big imprint. But the Ranger did. Because it wasn't trying to be more than it was. It stayed real. And that made people trust it even more. Meanwhile, outside all these small personal stories, the world around the Ranger was slowly changing. Truck buyers were starting to look at bigger options. Comfort was becoming a priority, and companies were beginning to invest in features that compact trucks didn't offer yet. The people who owned Rangers didn't notice at first. Their trucks were still running fine, still hauling, still starting every morning. But the market was already shifting in the background. And soon, the story of this reliable little truck would cross paths with a new kind of competition. Not from failures of its own, but from changes happening around it. That shift, that moment when the compact truck world changed, is where the Ranger's journey takes a turn. A turn that leads directly to the surprise ending most people don't remember clearly today. By the early 1990s, something began shifting in the truck world. Slowly, quietly, almost in the background. The Ford Ranger was still doing its job, still selling well, still trusted. But the market around it, that was starting to change. Bigger trucks were coming back. Comfort was becoming a selling point, and people wanted more space, more power, more truck in their truck. Ford noticed the trend immediately. The F-150 was climbing in popularity year after year. Higher profits, more attention, more buyers upgrading from compact to full size. The Ranger didn't fail. The market simply started looking past it. And that was the real turning point. Not a problem with the truck, but a shift in what buyers wanted. Inside Ford, priorities changed. If the F-150 was booming, it made business sense to put resources there. More features, more trim levels, more marketing. Meanwhile, the compact truck segment felt stable but not growing. And this affected the Ranger. Updates slowed down. New features arrived more gradually. Investment became more conservative. The truck wasn't ignored, just not pushed forward at the same pace. There was another challenge too: competition. Real competition. Toyota refined its small trucks with smoother engines and cleaner interiors. Nissan stepped up with stronger reliability and quieter cabins. Mazda improved its designs, and shared platforms shifted expectations. Buyers who once chose compact trucks for utility and price now had choices that felt a little more modern, a little more comfortable. And those small differences added up. The 1989 Ranger had one quiet problem. It was almost too good at being reliable. Owners held onto them for a long time, sometimes 10, 12, 15 years. They didn't replace them quickly, and slow replacement cycles meant the segment didn't grow. Ford wasn't losing customers. Customers simply weren't coming back as often as before. At the same time, the American lifestyle was shifting. Families were getting larger, commutes were getting longer. Comfort mattered. Interior space mattered. People wanted trucks that felt more like daily vehicles and less like simple work tools. The Ranger still did what it always did. It hauled, it climbed, it stayed dependable. But now, buyers expected features that compact trucks weren't built for. Bigger cabs, smoother rides, more power on highways. Ford faced a crossroads. Do they take the compact truck into a new direction? Or do they focus on the full-size line that was already exploding with demand? They chose the second path. And that decision shaped the Ranger's future more than anything else. Not a mechanical issue, not a failure, just a shift in strategy. Meanwhile, competitors kept advancing. Toyota introduced better engines. Nissan improved comfort and refinement. Chevrolet pushed the S10 with more features and modern updates. The Ranger began feeling familiar instead of new. Buyers still trusted it, still recommended it, still kept it running. But in a market full of new features and modern styling, the Ranger's steady personality started blending into the background. And that's where the surprise starts, because the Ranger didn't fade because something went wrong. It faded because everything else moved faster. Bigger trucks, new expectations, different buyers, a new era forming around it. By the time these changes became obvious, the compact truck world had already shifted. What once made the Ranger perfect was now the very thing that made it look simple. Reliable, yes. Useful, yes. But not the main event anymore. Yet the 1989 Ranger remains steady, still respected, still out there doing real work, still holding a place in people's memories, even as the market around it turned the page. This shift set the stage for the part of the story that surprises most people today, the ending. How a truck that never failed still watched its chapter close in a way no one expected. We're almost there. Now we move from the turning point toward the reflection, the part where the Ranger's quiet legacy becomes clear. When you look back at the 1989 Ford Ranger today, you start to see it differently. Not as a small truck that faded away, but as a truck that defined a whole era without ever trying to. It shaped what a compact truck could be: simple, durable, manageable. A vehicle built around everyday life, not around trends. The Ranger wasn't loud about its purpose. It didn't show off. It didn't chase attention. And maybe that's why people respected it so much. It felt honest. The 1989 model sits right in the middle of that honest identity. By then, the truck had matured. It wasn't experimental anymore. It wasn't trying to prove anything. It just existed in a steady, dependable way. And that's rare now. Most trucks today make a statement: aggressive styling, heavy features, big personalities. The Ranger wasn't built for that world. It represented a different time, a time when trucks didn't need to tell a story just to be noticed. That's part of its cultural meaning. It reminds people of a moment when life felt a little simpler, when a truck was just a tool, a good one, and not a status symbol. Ask older owners what they remember, and their answers stay consistent. It always started. It hauled everything I needed. It never complained. Short, steady memories. Nothing dramatic, nothing exaggerated. Just reliability, told quietly. You rarely hear someone say, "It was the most powerful truck," or "It was the nicest interior," because that wasn't the point. The Ranger earned respect for being there when people needed it. That kind of memory stays with you. Its ending becomes clearer when you think about all this. It didn't fade because it was weak. It faded because the world around it changed. Buyers shifted. Companies shifted. The idea of a small truck shifted. And the Ranger simply stayed what it always was: steady, practical, unchanged. In a way, that consistency is part of its strength. The truck never stopped being reliable. It never stopped being useful. It never stopped being exactly what people expected it to be. But the market wanted something different. More comfort, more size, more features. The Ranger didn't lose its identity. It just didn't match the new expectations. And that's where the surprise lies. A truck this dependable doesn't usually leave quietly, but the Ranger did. Not because people forgot it, but because the industry moved in another direction. Yet the legacy stayed. In small towns, on rural roads, in backyards, in old garages. You still see them, sometimes running strong, sometimes waiting for one more repair, one more trip, one more job. The 1989 Ranger's story isn't about decline. It's about timing, about a small truck that served its era perfectly, but lived in a market that eventually wanted something else. And when you look at one today, parked somewhere quietly, you can still feel that honesty, that old-school simplicity, the sense that this truck was built to be useful, not impressive. And that's a kind of legacy modern trucks rarely carry now. Section 5 settles the meaning. Now we move toward the closing chapter, the outro, where the Ranger's place in American memory comes full circle. When you step back and look at the 1989 Ford Ranger as a whole, its place in American life becomes easy to see. It wasn't designed to impress. It wasn't built to dominate. It was built to serve. And it did that job for a long time, quietly, steadily, without asking for much. The Ranger wasn't a headline truck. It wasn't the center of attention, but it was always there, in driveways, on rural roads, behind barns, outside workshops. The small truck that blended into the background because people depended on it so much they forgot to notice it. The 1989 model especially carries that feeling. By then, it had grown into itself. It was comfortable with what it was, a steady partner, not a showpiece. And while the world around it changed, the Ranger stayed rooted in its purpose. It didn't chase trends. It didn't evolve into something flashy. It held on to the simplicity that made people trust it in the first place. That's why its ending surprises people today. Because trucks usually fade when something goes wrong, when they break down, when buyers lose confidence, when the brand stops believing in the model. But the Ranger's story wasn't like that. It didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because everything else changed around it. Demand shifted. Priorities shifted. The market chased bigger trucks with more features and more comfort. The Ranger didn't follow that path. It stayed true to its small truck roots. And in a market moving fast, that steady identity made it look quiet compared to the noise around it. But quiet doesn't mean forgotten. Even today, you still see 1989 Rangers on the road. Some faded, some patched up, some running better than anyone expected. They show up in towns where time moves slower. They sit at job sites, still carrying weight, still proving their worth. There's something meaningful in that. A truck that keeps showing up, even decades after its prime. A truck that represents a kind of reliability not built for attention, but built for real life. People who own them remember them with calm appreciation. Not excitement, not nostalgia for power or speed, but for dependability, for simplicity, for the way it fit into everyday routines without getting in the way. The '89 Ranger is a reminder of what compact trucks used to be. Useful, practical, affordable, and built with a purpose that had nothing to do with image. Its legacy isn't loud, it's quiet, steady, worn in, like the sound of a small engine that turns over on a cold morning without any hesitation. And maybe that's the reason people still talk about it. Not because it dominated the market, not because it changed automotive history, but because it stayed true to what a lot of people needed in their lives. A small truck that worked. The Ranger didn't chase a dramatic ending. It didn't get a farewell built on noise or marketing. It simply stepped aside as the world moved on. But it left behind stories, memories, and a kind of trust that lasts longer than most trucks do. So when you see an old '89 Ranger parked by a fence, or rolling down a back road, or sitting outside a workshop with tools in the bed, you understand its real legacy. A workhorse that didn't need attention to prove its place. A truck that earned respect by being there, day after day. And maybe that's why its story still feels complete. Because it didn't fade in the way people imagine. It simply lived its purpose until the market shifted and the era changed. The truck stayed the same. The world moved forward. That quiet ending isn't a failure. It's a reflection of a truck that did its job so well that time had to move past it, not the other way around. And in that quiet, steady exit, the 1989 Ford Ranger became exactly what people still call it today: a small truck workhorse. Reliable, honest. A reminder of a time when trucks were built for real life, not for the spotlight.